Welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Tonight we turn our attention slightly away from the two big parties, the APC and the PDP, and look to one who is also struggling to be the third force, even though many third forces are beginning to emerge now. The All Progressives Grand Alliance, it now has a presidential candidate, and he is my guest tonight, Professor Peter Umeadi. Prof, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you very much.
Let me just say congratulations and begin by asking you, how does it feel to be a presidential candidate?
Yes. I put it up on my Twitter handle when it happened that this is my political apogee. And the next best thing to this will be to win the election itself. So that is the zenith, as a matter of fact, in a contest that ought to be fair and where anything could happen. And then you come to the point where you become a presidential candidate of APGA, a leading political party, then that is something to remember.
So when you put that up on Twitter, that's a good thing about social media. You get instant reactions, feedback. What sort of feedback did you get from the people?
Well, a lot of retweets, a lot of loves on it, and then and so on. Yes. Comments
suggesting that they support you, or question whether you should be in it or not?
No, incidentally, I declared that I joined APGA on 20th of March 2019. On that day, I also declared that I will be running for the office of president in March 2019. And I can tell you that from that time, I'd never had any or read any, comment that is bad.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, you're a retired judge, chief judge of Anambra State, and now you want to go from being in the judiciary to the executive. What's bringing you out of retirement? Why are you this interested in being president at a time like this? You will know the kind of task that awaits the next president of this country, when you should be rested. Why do you want to be president?
Well, you don't retire and go to bed. You retire and find something else to do. It could be gardening. It could be other lighter things you do. And then I first of all went in to teach, which I'm still teaching. But that is it. Of course, in politics, there is a room for you to change things. And I looked at it, and that's why I'm here. And I'm with all modesty, I'm vindicated, because I now have the ticket to run for president, and I'm saying that I'm running for president to reposition Nigeria in 4 years. What I mean exactly is this: questions have come, in some interviews. 4 years, I say, well, yes, I'm going to do my best in 4 years that, the good that we do will be difficult to reverse. I come from a political family. My uncle was running mate to Chief Obafemi Awolowo in 1979. So, and 1979, I graduated LLB. And I was working close with him. In fact, he took me from our village, Agukunri, and took me to Ikene and introduced me to Chief Awolowo in his sitting room. They had a meeting there. So I can safely say that I ran that election alongside him in 1979. A year after I joined APGA, I called a meeting of all the women in Anambra State. I gave each of the women from those 181 communities, I gave them my posters. and encourage them to use them. And women are very diligent. I would have come into politics and go and get the hard-chested men and those who won't let another man speak, those who have all the answers, and those who tell you, oh, we know how to get it done. No, but that's not where I'm going. I'm coming to you because this is the type of politics I want to play.
In responding to my question, I noticed that you talked a lot about your interaction within Anambra State.
Yes.
It almost buttresses the points that many make that APGA is a regional party.
Yes.
Because my next question would clearly be, what sort of engagements have you had with party members outside Anambra State that has brought you to where you are today to be the presidential candidate of APGA?
Okay, thank you very much. I've been all over the country. I started with my own coordinators. I have my own structures. And those structures are still existent today. And they were all in the press. I went to all the 6 geographical zones, set up structures. And it's amazing that many of them have been working since that time they were set up as I'm speaking with you today. So I had structures all over the country. And then along the line, I realized that I had to also, as I'm working with my own independent structures, I had also to get closer to the party structure, which I did. You know what I'm saying? Which I did. So I got to identify the party chairman in all the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. You know, if you're looking at APGA, unless you come close, you wouldn't know how organized it is and how widespread it is.
You're coming at a time when political parties are presenting not just their structures, but popular candidates. I say this because I know, we all know, that in comparison with the big parties like the APC and the PDP, APGA is not that big, but APGA is not a small party altogether, smaller than these other two, no problem. But I'm concerned how confident you are of winning this thing, considering the fact that a great percentage of Nigerians are just hearing your name for the first time. What's your conviction that, 1, you've chosen the right platform, and 2, you can win this thing?
Yes, I think I have chosen the right platform because there's a lot of zeal in APGA. People tell you that of all the parties that are created with APGA at the same time, APGA is one of those that are still surviving. Now, you know, there is something about APGA that won't let it die easily, because the people are looking for how to get involved in Nigeria. And APGA, you know, when you set out on a venture, and then you have 6 geopolitical zones, then you want to, if you grab one geopolitical zone, there are 5 left. Then you begin to scheme on how to get maybe 1 and then maybe 3. So that is what is going on. So that's how I set my eye on APGA, because you see, if you're out, say, to run for the office of president, you have to have a plan, a workable plan. And the first thing you have to achieve is to get to a point, like we are now, where you are a candidate. But then as you're getting on to become a candidate, you're also putting other things into place that will give you a chance to win. Because that's how we must speak when we're talking in a democracy. You're talking about getting a chance to win, and then this strikes me, like you said, what convinces me that I can win or I can make it. You see, in a political journey, things change quickly, and people are there. They may not approve of you in the beginning, but when they look at your consistency and when they think they can trust you, and when they think that other people will be amenable to you. Don't forget. And if you're talking about running in a country as big and as wide as Nigeria, it's not just where you're coming from or where you started. It's how can you get the confidence of other people who are not immediately there. And I've told you where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying? I come from a political family, well known. So if you say people don't know you, I take it because I'm in your studio, but you can say that. Yeah, I mean, if you say Umeadi, it pops up. And when you know that my uncle was a running mate in a Christian South ticket, then you begin to know. But I leave it at that. So I'm taking pains to explain to you that, and I've been in the judiciary anyway, you know what I'm saying? And I've been Chief Judge of Anambra State for 8 years. So I will take that with a pinch of salt, that I'm not known. No, I'm known.
In the world of politics,
yeah.
I think I respect the level of confidence you have in your popularity. I will not question your popularity. I only asked to know if you feel you're popular enough to win the hearts of Nigerians, because I can assure you that a younger generation may not be familiar with your name. However, my question now is, for a party like APGA that hasn't really achieved much on a national scale, I'm wondering why you would choose it, because in 2015, APGA did not field the presidential candidate. They did field one in 2019 and got 66,000 votes out, compared to parties like the APC getting 15 million, the PDP getting 11 million. And, it raises the question, if APGA doesn't have more than 66,000 members. I spoke with the chairman of your party who said that APGA has offices in 36 states and the FCT, just like you mentioned. Well, then 66,000 votes. Does it mean that even your party members didn't vote for APGA in 2019? With that kind of statistics going into 2023, at the time now when there's a high level of awareness among the populace to change things, what chance do you stand?
I accept what you say when it comes to what the records show about how many people have voted APGA in the past. But I say too that the number on the roll of the register of the party is not what goes to the polls on the day of voting. And on Wednesday, when I got the nomination of the party, later that night, I had a long meeting with all the 37 chairmen. And the report I'm getting from them is that there is a lot of enthusiasm across the country to embrace APGA. Of course, I don't want to get into a fist-off with anybody, but the country is not being run as it ought to be, and people are looking for alternatives.
So you say that you're stepping out with this triple banner of rule of law, separation of powers, and due process. And I think it's a good time for you to break down all three for us.
Thank you very much. You see, they look alike, but they're different. When you talk about rule of law, you're talking about, countries are governed by laws. These laws are made. Everybody knows about them. And everybody, that is why you say, nobody is above the law. Even the Constitution is the law. That's why in terminology we rank it above the rest. So it's that simple. Whatever you do, you must show the backing you have to do that. And that's why when somebody confronts you in places where things run normally, they tell you this is the law. That's it. So that is about the rule of law. And it permeates all facets of our being, because that is what assures us to be here, and that is what gives you reprieve. That is what saves your land, so you can go to your land and farm.
My question more.
Yes.
My question
I was just dealing on that one. I can go to the other two.
No. Before you go to the other two, my question was more about, we understand how important it is to be guided by the rule of law.
Yeah.
You have identified that that's not what obtains in Nigeria to an extent. When you come in as president, if you come in as president, how would you be able to handle or to ensure that the rule of law is enforced, ensure separation of powers and due process?
Yes, these things are there. When you talk about separation of powers, for instance, you see, these are institutions, and these are where what comes to your mind immediately, is issues of checks and balances. Because if you don't, what runs a society, wherever we are, is the issue of sanctions. The idea that if you transgress, that you will be punished. If there were no such, feature on the ground, everybody will run amok. So it is very important that you strengthen the executive, that you strengthen the legislature, that you strengthen the judiciary. So that when you talk about the common man, you said the judiciary is the hope of the common man. If I will add on this program, it need not just be that. All the three arms of government should be the sanctuary of the common man, if you understand, and that makes things easier. So when you talk about how to implement this, making sure that these structures are in place, and that is where financial autonomy comes in. And that is where, elsewhere, what you hear are things like co-equal arms of government. Very important. Co-equal arms of government. Because you see, if you are in the judiciary and he receives his funding directly, according to the Constitution, they go and defend it and explain how it is used, the same as the legislature. Now, you cannot dictate to them what to do. Everybody now is subservient to the law, the Constitution, and everything gets on better that way. So if I become president, especially with my antecedents, yes, I will make sure that all these institutions are maintained and supported, and as president, I will listen to what the legislature is saying. I'll use the normal lobbying definitions to get what I want from them. I will listen to what the judiciary is saying, and I will know also that these are the duties which the executive must execute for the people. And then you get to due process. It's the same thing. That is, things must be done as they ought to be done. Because you see, let me tell you, children are, how many times have we made laws banning hawking of young children? How many do you see on the streets? They are still there hawking. They are still there, they don't know where to go. Now, if you check the cost of what that child is carrying on the pan on his head, if you understand what I'm saying, then you begin to know that there ought to be an intervention. Do you know that if you maltreat your child under the law, the state has a right, where it is prescribed, to come and remove the child from you? You see, when we talk about rule of law, we're not talking, it's not elitist, if you understand. Because okay, you take a drive. You take a drive. You want to make a U-turn. And before you make a U-turn, you have to reverse 3 times to make the U-turn, because somebody has blocked where you would have finished your U-turn. So, you see, these are the things where if I become president, I will go down to the streets, little things like this, you know what I'm saying? I'll make sure that they are removed and they are done because that is my work. It's not about attending conferences. It's not about signing papers. It's not about removing yourself from the process. No, because it affects all facets of our living.
In your acceptance speech, you captured the poor, albeit with no details. Now, according to a World Bank report which was released in March this year, 4 out of 10 Nigerians live below the poverty line. Now, what would you do to improve this if you become president?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me get to the stark one that we see. You bring alleviation programs to alleviate poverty, but you do that when it's not staring you in the face. If you want to talk about the poor, because we make a mistake, for instance, to limit the poor to only those who are fending for families, that is, adults. What is a mistake? Because a child who is roaming the streets is poor. So could we not mop up all the children who are in the streets, for starters? Because when you are trying to solve a problem, do you not start from the most vulnerable? Do we not mop up all the children who are in the streets, for starters? Because if you want to do something, you have to do so, and that's why I talk about 4 years. I put the country on an irreversible path. So I will start with the children on the streets, I will remove them from the streets, and we use the funds that we have to sustain them, put them through school, try to give them a life. Now, there's going to be a lot that is going to happen because the children poor are more in the north than they're in the south. So if you get to the north to say you want to remove the Almajiri from the streets, there's going to be an uproar that this Christian president is coming to disturb what has been here. What is not normal is unconstitutional. I was sent by my chief judge in 2008 to Kaduna when we were talking about the Child Rights Act. I was there, and of course Anambra was one of the first states that domiciled it in 2006. And I was there, and I know all that is being said, how the traditional religious influences are stopping that. Okay, you talk about Almajiri, you talk about also the apprenticeship in the south, where boys stay in the market selling. You know what I'm saying? But they are not hungry, if you know what I'm saying. They may not have finished school, but they don't have pans in their hand, picking food from dustbins, if you get my point. So, and this is one country that we all live together. Somebody has to let go.
That World Bank report also gave suggestions on how poverty can be alleviated, or you can improve on the number in every country, specifically Nigeria. And one of that would be expanding the social protection for Nigerians. Do you understand how to go about expanding the social protection for Nigerians?
As president of Nigeria, in fact, any country, at the snap of a finger, you have options laid out to you about what to do and which route to take. What happens now is the will, the political will, and the personal mindset for you to do what is needed, if you understand what I'm saying. Of course, all that will be worked out, because that's essentially what I said. You have to, because they are staring us in the face. So you have to get about finding a way to assuage it. You have to find money for it. If you have to find money for it, that means some other areas of spending will have to wait, and you prioritize the ones that you want to get done first.
You find money for what, specifically?
For the social policy you're talking about.
What exactly are these sub-policies that make up this social policy that you have for Nigerians? What's your social policy?
My social policy is to identify the poor and sustain them on state budgets.
Identify the poor and sustain them on state budgets would almost sound like what the federal government is doing. Identifying the poorest of the poor and reaching out to them, giving them funding. The World Bank says that's not a way
No, that's different. That's different from what I'm saying. So, I've told you that I didn't want to begin to criticize what is being done. That's different from what I'm saying. I'm telling you about getting to the streets and moving them out of the streets. They're not doing that. That's different. That's why I'm different. That's why I've told you I identified them. They're all over the place. I stopped them. And you see a lot of arguments about that they're doing, and they publish the list, and people say, no, we never got anything.
You know, beyond the people on the streets, the Almajiris and the children on the streets that you talk about, yes. That World Bank report also identified underpaid Nigerian workers as among those who are either underpaid or unemployed, underemployed, unemployed as contributing factors to the level of poverty in the country. How would you address that?
Yes, it's been done because if you check the number of people who are working in government offices, they are minimal compared to the rest of the people who are struggling on their own, sustaining themselves. So, you see, but the tragedy is that even the small number that are working in government are not paid their salaries as a when due. Because salaries has a cushioning effect all the time, no matter how small it is. If you're receiving salaries regularly, it trickles down to the family. It helps a line of people even to go to school, to wear clothes, to pay whatever they can on rents, etc., etc. But when you don't pay them, it worsens the situation. But you see, like I said, we must find a way to find the vulnerable areas. I keep saying that. And then we must pay attention to them. And then we must find out, we must prioritize our spending.
Prof, my question, I'm afraid you haven't really answered my question. How you intend to eradicate poverty in Nigeria? I already gave you statistics from the World Bank, a quite recent one, just March here, that says 4 in 10 Nigerians are living below the poverty line. If you put that into percentage, that's almost 40-something% of the population living below the poverty line. You've identified the children on the streets as being poor, and you intend to take them off the streets and cater to them using state funds. But beyond the children, the other classes of poor Nigerians, which contribute to these stats that's affecting the country, how do you hope to reach out to them specifically? Yeah. If you say that poverty alleviation will form part of your policy, your social policy, yeah, what exactly will you do?
You know that this issue of poverty got worsened by the dire security condition that we have in Nigeria. You know that in Nigeria we have sustenance agriculture. People go to the farm, and when they farm, they sustain themselves thereby. They get food to eat. Even if they get a little to go and sell in the market, they get money in their hands. Then you know that had been stopped by the incursion of herdsmen and farmers' clashes. You know that has been disturbed by Boko Haram, banditry. You know that has been disturbed by IPOB. And you know that in places like in the southeast, Mondays are off work. So these things continue to worsen. So you see, these are the things any government that wants to get normalcy and bring the people out of poverty must tackle. And you have to tackle them together. It's not something that you bring separately.
All right, let's move away from that now. You're coming into the picture at a time when there's a remarkable increase in youth awareness in politics and governance, and at a time when youth would rather vote for younger persons than vote for people your age.
Yeah.
Let's say the youths decide to go for you. What are some of your youth policies to carry the youths along?
Yes, like I said, I've been in this child rights promotion all the time I was in the judiciary, and I made all those laws. I got those family courts all modeled with the help of the NGOs, and they got them all built up. And then one of the things that you would understand, and I start from this and I go to another one, is that majority of the youths are in school, and the schools are disrupted because the level of the money you put in education is, it shouldn't be mentioned. So we should cater for the education sector. We should increase spending in education and keep our children in school. All these things relate to one another. In the school system, we have to define how to acquire skills so that not everybody gets onto the university. And when you define how to acquire skills, you go through the basic form. If you are inclined to skill acquisition and you want to help yourself with that, all these things are made available to you. Then you have foundries and other related things that can take care, mop up the people who are going on that lane. Then the rest who are going to formal school, they go to formal school. Of course, immediately those who are going to the lane of acquiring technical knowledges are removed from those you are catering for. And so on and so forth. And those who are going through regular school is continuous, is not stopped on the way. And they finish school, and they can get on to do something and start working, and then they start paying their taxes, and these things are utilized properly, and then you throw them into the mill. So, you see, in talking about the majority of the youths have one way to go. It's either they go to school, of course, it ought to be compulsory. You go to school up to a certain point, and then you branch out and acquire skills. And it is sad that we have a lot of people who have gone through the universities, the higher schools, and they don't have anything to do. Because, what really are you going to create to absorb all of them? And then they get paid by government if they are not working on their own and generating money. And you're never going to build a country like that. But if you provide a lane where they can go and acquire technical knowledge which they can use on their own, that is the basis for progression.
How much youth presence will be felt in your government? How much youth presence will be felt in your government if you become president?
I would encourage a very large percentage of that.
Appointment?
Appointments, yes. Male and female.
So I take it you don't have that. You don't have a plan for them yet.
I do, of course.
What's the plan?
In my government?
Yes.
Or generally?
In your government.
Oh, of course. Like I said, yes. A great number of them will be accommodated. Yes, male and female.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, some presidential aspirants are putting percentage to it.
No,
When you talk about male and female, you know the women are already pushing for their
35%.
of
35%. No, my dear. You know, you see, the sub box, yes, is a place to say things you never do. You understand? I come from my antecedents doesn't allow me to do that. Okay?
Allow you to, okay.
No, allow me to fabricate things so that they can clap for me. But I'm sincere. And when I tell you a large percentage, you walk out, you know what is on the table, you know what I'm saying? Then you say, yeah, this percentage goes to...
Does this mean you will not do 35% for women?
That is what they're asking for.
Is that what you will give?
Well, something close to that.
Be you something above that or something below that?
No. The law, it says it recommends
at least
35.
Yes.
It can be higher.
No. We're not speaking vaguely.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I'm asking you directly.
Not me. I'm not saying about me. I'm saying the fact that it specifies 35 doesn't mean it has to be pegged at 35.
No, we're speaking about you. What
and you are asking me if I'm going to do 35?
Will you do 35 and above?
Well, close to 35, at least, to start with.
All right, then. Let's talk about the economy now. Every Nigerian, I believe, understands that our economy is in danger. You have hinted that while speaking earlier. You hinted that while speaking earlier. In fact, the IMF warns that our debt servicing might go up 100% of our revenue by 2026. What's your understanding of the Nigerian economy? And with this kind of warning from the IMF, what would you put in place to prevent us spending all our revenue on servicing our debt?
Good. What I want to assure you is that our creditors are watching who is on the saddle. It's not what you say that impresses them. It's what you set out doing. Don't forget, if you default, let me use the end-term word, if you default on your repayments and you are not embezzling the money, it's not going into corruption, and it's going into funding services, and it's going into bringing up the young people, showing them the way, and it is transparent, they're not going to call the money. That's the point I'm making. They're not going to call the money.
You say that if our debts are being used for infrastructure and actual servicing of probably infrastructure, judiciously used, that the creditors would not ask for the debt back. That's a probability.
No. I'm telling you how human relations work. You see, you can't have my money and you're profligate and you're using it wrongly.
Doesn't mean that if you have my money and you're using it rightly, I can't still ask for it.
Oh, you can. That's what I'm saying. But you're not going to be as hard as you will be.
But there's a projection that by 2026, which is just about 4 years from now, if you become president, you will be in office by then. If nothing is done by the time you get into office, you will be paying you will be spending 100% of our revenue on servicing of debts. So I'm asking you that in projecting ahead like that, what would you do to make sure that that doesn't happen?
So then we'll close shop and everybody will go home. Is that what you're saying?
Is that what you would do?
I'm answering you.
I'm not running for
president.
president.
That's the point. You're saying what the report says.
Yes.
And I'm saying we close shop and everybody goes home because it does not work like that in reality. No, a country never closes shop and goes home. That's the point. So, let me add, if you do what I'm saying, and yes, you can continue to make what you're making, but you apply the other ones to get in the country, you are on the road to resuscitation and revival.
Prof, you're not sounding like a potential president. I'm asking you what you would do. I'm not asking you what should be done. I'm asking what you would do. as president?
I'm not president yet.
You want to be president, don't you?
Yes, I'm not president yet.
So what would you do to address our debt crisis? It is a debt crisis, isn't it?
That's what I'm telling you.
So what would you do?
Let me repeat what I have said. Maybe you hear it again now. I'm going to use the money that I find when I become president to continue the work in the country in a way that my creditors will give me space. That's what I said before.
Very well, then.
Nobody closes shop and goes home. Are we going to go back to where?
You know, as I said at the beginning,
Yeah.
the country is in a very tight situation economically. And many Nigerians are clamoring for us to hire an economist as president to address this issue. You're not an economist. Why should the country hire you? Why should Nigerians hire you?
Well, yeah, I think I accept whatever question you do. This is a good one, too. The country should hire me for what I have said here the past minutes that I have been with you. That this is a man who has set out his mind to come and work as president of Nigeria. And in the reason why they have to do that, and I add before I continue, nobody, let them come here and tell you that is not true. Nobody knows what he's going to see in the file when he comes on the first day in office. Second day in office, third day in office, you don't know. What is going to happen the week after, you don't know. The most important thing that you are looking for is the mindset. And let me add, I said it before, but I will add for the benefit of your program. There are, you can get whatever you want at the snap of a finger. You can get you don't have to know all the things about economics to be a president, no. But you have economists who are honest, and they give you the reports in a snap of a finger. And they put it in a way that you understand it. And it's now for you to add the human element, to the country element, the projection of where you want the country, the responsibility that you want to take. It's easy. So, I'm the best person in my frame of mind, for my antecedents, to be president of Nigeria today.
Despite not being an economist. Very well, then. My next question further buttresses why Nigerians want an economist. Inflation is on the rise. Doesn't look like it to go down anytime soon. As president, if you become president, how would you address inflation such that it will not only be seen on paper, it will be felt in local markets?
One thing about interviews and generally the media is that it's as if we're coming from the moon. My dear, nothing is produced here. They tell you about the time when there was the land plant in Ibadan, when there was an AMCO in Enugu, when there was a Peugeot in Kaduna. Of course, these are elements that whittle down inflation. Look at how many cars there are in the streets of Nigeria. An Innocent had just come. When I come from the plane, I enter Innocent's bus. Where are other manufacturers? Nothing is being manufactured. And you're talking about waving a wand and bringing inflation down. No, it is by building the country and getting things done properly. And then this will affect the exchange rate. First of all, I said when I took the mantle on Wednesday, and I think I remember it, I should repeat it here. You cannot have economic, scientific, sporting, sufficiency breakthrough when you're hungry, when you're insecure, when you're unstable. So, and you're talking about bringing inflation down when you can't go to market, when you can't go to farm, when you can't go to market. All these things are falutin.
Prof, once again, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that you are the presidential candidate, not an analyst. So now we understand the problem. You've also further analyzed the problem. What's your solution? We know that we need to manufacture. We also know that the environment doesn't allow for manufacturing.
Yes.
Government policies need to also support manufacturing from every scale. If you become president, how would you address some of these challenges that you have identified?
Basically, we are touting to have about 25,000 megawatts, but in reality, we have 3,200 megawatts. You cannot drive any process without electricity. The barber, the welder, the saloon person, the vulcanizer, they use air, yes, but if you get the point is there. Do you know how much I'm not asking you a question, but let us think of how much Nigeria has spent on electricity. That is not APGA. It's not APGA that made it so. So what am I driving at? We're talking about electricity. You cannot get out of the woods without getting electricity back. So my main aim will be to get electricity back.
And you can fix it.
Everything I will do, I assure you, will be because, like I said, I will remove my personal interest from the picture entirely. And when I say, don't scoff at it, because that is the basis of revival. Because if you know that the president does not want a kickback, and you're a minister, then you're a peril to look for a kickback. But I don't want one. And I'm saying it on your program. You see, these are the issues. But then you want me to cram something up and begin to tell you it's there. That's not the way to survival.
Prof, we're almost out of time, but let's talk about, let me take you quickly back to your time as, when you were practicing, when you were on the bench. As Chief Judge of Anambra State, you beat your chest to say that there were certain things that you did. I think one of them was that all the courts in Anambra State were fully air-conditioned. If I recall that you had an interview where you said that. Well, let's leave that and talk about something else. Now, disobedience to court orders is something that's become too rife in this country. What do you think is the problem here? And is there a solution to it?
The problem is the issue of separation of powers. That is because you know there is nothing you can do. Everything is with you. But if you know that the system can call you to order, like they do everywhere, and we read them and we are happy, it won't happen. You have said all that. That is it. You cannot choose which order to obey. The one that is important to you, you agree. The one that is against you, you disagree to obey. It's not done. The court is not just where politicians go to get their mandate back. And when they get their mandate, the chorus is that, oh, the judiciary is working. Everything is fine. But when they tell you to stop the demolition, you're starting at somebody's house. You go ahead and demolish it before you say whatever. It is not correct. Like while I was on the judiciary, thank you have mentioned that, and that tells you the type of man who is sitting before you. Do you know what it means to sit in an air-conditioned court? That is the optimum in my profession. That allows you to do your case, to think, to come up, because as a lawyer, you're thinking on your feet. And I'm the only person in the whole of the country that ran an air-conditioned court for 8 years. In all my courts, at the time I left, I had 30 courts. What is going on? I have money coming from National Judicial Council, very, very strong institution. They give to every judge 200,000 naira a month. You are hearing it now. That's what they give to every judge. And it comes, and don't forget, the chief judge is insulated. The money comes to the judiciary in the name of the chief judge, but you don't tamper with it. You don't talk with it. It's the chief registrar and the accountant that sign up. But then I, as the chief judge with my purple pen, I'm the one who says what you use the money for. I prioritize it. So what did we do in the meeting of judges? We prioritized diesel and hardware. air conditioners in all courts. When that money comes, we bring out money for diesel. That's how I ran it for 8 years. Wonderful. I gave all my judges Law Pavilion. Go and ask Law Pavilion. I'm the biggest purchaser of Law Pavilion app. I had over 85 magistrates. I gave all of them laptops with Law Pavilion. The judges had their own. I just gave them the app. That's the man sitting before you. I created the most scientific rule in Nigeria. That is the rule that has an interface with the ADR in itself. It's the only one. In Anambra State, a deputy chief registrar can hear non-contentious motions for service and all that. So thank you very much. It is unfortunate that you can't call them to order, because when you talk about rule of law, people think you're talking English. No, it is the substratum. And if you don't get it, you won't get your country right. You won't get any respect. They will be coming for their money. But if there's, have you imagined why people don't come here to do cases? The cases last forever. And you want to do business. If you want to do business, get an efficient, impartial, honest judiciary. You can't sustain the influx of people coming here. Nigeria is a big country, a very wealthy country. A lot of money to be made here. But go to the roads. Everywhere is in chaos. And people don't want to hear about rule of law. That's the only thing that can bring us out of where we are.
You know, it's a good thing you mentioned the speedy dispensation of justice, because that's also a concern for Nigerians. In fact, there are some domestic cases that are in court and have been pending. In fact, issues of rape and sexual assault. For some have said that we should have special courts to try those cases. Would you subscribe to something like that? Yeah,
what happens is this. Like I said, I've granted many interviews. Well, what happens is that the executive, for instance, are not comfortable with the judiciary. They don't understand the work of the judiciary. And they take all the money and put it in their back pockets. And if you look at them sternly, they won't give you anyone. They want you to kowtow. Then they give you, it's wrong. You need more judges. Judges in Nigeria still write in long hands. And when they are retiring, they get into one disease or another. There's no magic about that. You need more judges. You need to create. But do you know the thing? For you to create a judge, you need to attach to him at least 5 personnel: a driver, a secretary, 2 court clerks. If you get my point. The people who are working in the government house with the governor don't want to hear that. Say, what is it? Every time they pack all these things and put on the other side. So your cases will last forever. You need more judges. There's no magic there. These are the things coming from I'm the best man for today.
Well, just before we go, as a former chief judge, what have you found to be the problem with corruption cases, with prosecuting corruption cases in the country?
Yeah, I think we tried to correct it. The National Judicial Institute and National Institute and the National Judicial Council tried to correct it. And a lot of training has been going in on that respect. Prosecutors bring a lot of charges. There are so many. Like I'm saying, by the time you get to even recording them will almost take you the whole day. And look at cases. Look at, for instance, the Michael Jackson case in America with the doctor. And you see how selective they are. I mean, all you need to do is to take the points that will nail this man, if you get my point, and bring before the court. And you get what you want. All that showing off. Okay, you know what I'm saying. And this is what is it called? Investigation that went on and on and on. That is the problem. So they bring on a lot of charges. It takes them a long time to, some of them, they can't prove them. You know what I'm saying? And you see, you have to be careful. Even the judge, when they don't prove them, even the judge is smeared. You know what I'm saying? Say, oh, the man in the streets doesn't know the difference. Say, oh, well, not them. They know what they are doing. You know what I'm saying? It's embarrassing to the judiciary. So the answer to it is this. There's a lot of training going there. You know what I'm saying? And the answer to it is, don't make all this noise in the press. Get all your facts right, concise. If you have 2 good facts out of 10 that can nail the man, is that not what you want? Go and nail him. Let him begin to talk about the rest. That's where the problem is. So they come with that, and sometimes, of course, lawyers are paid to defend their clients, and they begin to put stud here and there. There's nothing you can do about that.
Professor Peter Umeadi, thank you very much for coming to speak with us on political paradigm.
Thank you.
And I wish you well with your presidential ambition.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I have a handshake?
Absolutely. Thank you.
See you again.
See you again. Thank you. Well, that's political paradigm. I've been speaking with Professor Peter Umeadi, who is the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA. Remember, you can catch this episode and more on our YouTube page, Channels TV, or go to channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.